Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Patrick Lee Greaves. Today we're going to do this little sketch of St Michael's Mount in Cornwall, just down by Penzance. The place was Marv's Iron, very near to it. It looks over St Michael's Mount, and we're going to do a nice sketch of it in my sketchbook. And this is a homemade sketchbook I made, which allows me to use the paper I like actually within the book. I make it up with Arches watercolour paper, and it's lovely, really good to paint on. Anyway, we're going to start off just by doing a very loose outline of the sketch, and there's just my horizon line there, very light, and I'm just going to draw St Michael's Mount is going to come across the 2 pages. There's a few cottages on the end there. And there were some trees. And then we've got the top of the mount there, a little towery thing up there, and then it comes down, something like that. So all I'm going to do is just the outline like that, because that's going to be blocked in with colour, and it's just going to be nice blues and granulated effect hopefully, and that's going to be quite dark. And that's going to be the darkest part of the painting. So I don't need to do an awful lot of detail to that. It's literally just colour, one solid colour in there. We want quite a lot of drama in the sky, and the drama in the sky is going to be over on the left-hand side. It's going to be quite dark clouds there, brewing, and hopefully there's going to be a bit of light coming down this way behind the mount, so it shows. So basically my darkest point of the painting is going to be behind the lightest back part of the background, so that really shows up. And then the sea itself, well, we've got a little bit of land that comes down here, and then there's a little bit of water that comes in, comes round, something like that. It's a little stream that was running out into the sea. And then the land comes down, and then just in the foreground here were some grasses. We're not going to do too much, and they were just coming up here to balance the picture off a bit, and that's going to be the way it is. Now, to make the painting, it's all happening a bit on the right hand side. That's the only thing that concerns me about this painting, is most of the darkest part, the focal point, which is the mount, is going to be on the right hand side of the painting. So we have to really think about how we're going to balance that up. So we need to make this quite striking. Now the sea here is going to be, hopefully, he says with his fingers crossed, it's going to be sparkly. It's going to have that illusion of the sunlight hitting the water. So we're going to try and get some dry brush in there. It's quite hard actually in a small sketchbook to do that, because you can't get a big run, but we'll try anyway and see what we can do. So yeah, okay, just to recap on painting on 140 Arch watercolour paper in my own little sketchbook I made. It's like I say, it's so much easier to be painting on paper you're familiar with than having to sort of buy sketchbooks that you don't really understand the paper and how it's going to react to your paints. So making sketchbooks is quite a good idea, and they're ever so easy to do. There's lots of tutorials online that show you how. So why not give it a go? So we're going to be painting today with a limited palette of colours again. We've got our 3 primaries. We've got warm and cool of each. Cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, Windsor blue, cerulean blue, permanent rose, and cadmium red. Okay, so we're going to be attempting to paint with those today. Can you see the palette there? If I come down a bit, you can just see it in there. Okie dokie. Right, so I think I'll start off the sky first. I'm going to go for a little bit of cerulean blue first in the sky. I'm going to have 2 blues, obviously my only 2 blues, which is the cerulean blue and the Windsor blue. And I'm just gonna spray my page a little bit, just to help keep things moving. Okay, and I'm just going to have this bit of blue at the top of the page, just over the double page like that. Just a bit in there too. So it's just a little bit. And I'm just going to get a little bit of the Windsor blue, just a little bit. I'm just going to run it into it in place just to make it the blue a bit more interesting, a bit darker bits and lighter bits, so we don't get that feeling of monotony. Then I'm going to go quite simply. I'm going to go from a cadmium red and a Windsor blue, and I am going to mix that together and make a nice purple. And that's going to basically be my clouds. I might add a little bit of yellow to it in a minute just to neutralise it slightly, but at the moment I'm going to be going with that. And I'm going to start down by the horizon. I want to paint this quite loosely, okay, and quite fast. Well, this is my sky. This is the drama. This is going to be the bit, the dark bit. You've also got to remember it'll actually dry lighter than it appears on this page at this time. Now I'm just softening my brush. I'm sort of putting some water on my brush and softening the areas to make the clouds varied and interesting. Got to work quite fast because just touch there, because obviously we don't want it drying. Nice confident brush work you want when you're doing this. I'm just studying the picture. We've got some clouds floating here. I don't mind if I go over the mount because that's going to be darker, you see. So it's quite okay. That's quite a bit redder in that sky there. It's quite a bit redder. And again, a bit more dark in there. Make that a bit more interesting. So you can see we're building up the layers of the clouds there. A bit more up there. And then slowly bring it down towards the horizon. As I said, it doesn't matter if we go over the mount, because eventually that's going to be a lot darker and it's going to stand out on its own. Just soften that edge. I'll be going back in here in a minute. So it's just all scribbly sort of brushwork to create the texture of clouds. We don't want anything too uniform. Right, now we just want some more darks there because those clouds are quite dark. You can just see how random I'm being with the brush, just literally flicking it around. I'm not trying to paint the clouds as such, I'm just literally trying to sort of just suggest them. Okay, so that's all we're going to do with the sky. I didn't put any yellow in the end, I just went with the cerulean blue at the top and the Windsor blue and cadmium red at the bottom. But you have to remember to go quite strong because it's actually going to go quite light at the end. Just going to come back in. Now don't forget to join me at my website, purewatercolour.com. There's a link to it underneath the video. There's lots of demos there, lots of great artists there all sharing their work and the tips and things like that. So please come along. And also if you're interested in doing one of my watercolour courses, check out the link below to Udemy. It's ever so cheap and it's a workshop painting boats and beaches and stuff like that. So if that interests you, please come along and have a look at it. So we'll just wait for that bit of sky to dry and then we'll concentrate on the island in the distance and we'll try and create that sparkle on the sea that we see in the foreground. Okay. Okay, mine's nice and dry now, so I'm going to go into painting St. Michael's Mount here. Now that's going to be quite dark, okay, and because we're using quite a limited palette, we've got, what, 3 options really, haven't we? We've got some blue, some red and some yellow, and that keeps us from worrying about what we're going to do. So I'm just putting a little bit of red and yellow together. This is going to be very much the same colour as the sky, but darker. And when I start the top, that's going to just be blue. Just make sure I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to just flick in the top of the mount there like that. Get a little bit sticking up. I'll come back in there with a finer brush in a minute and put those bits in. I'll add a little bit of red now to make it a bit more purpley, just to get variation in the colour. Got quite a nice straight wall there. It tails off down this way. Slightly dark on this side. It comes down. There's a little tree there that stands up on the horizon, so I'm just going to give it a kind of bit of broken edge on across there. And let's come up a bit more. There we go. So we're painting this whole scene with just the 3 primaries, a warm and a cool of each. How easy is that going to be? Try my brush out a bit because I want a bit more of a broken effect there. And there's just, I can't really make out what's going on there, so I'm just suggesting it as I think it is. Now I want to quickly go back in, mix up some darker colour. Nice purpley colour, and just add some darks here and there, just to give this some variation, and let that dry. What we're going to do now is we're just going to put the sand in here for this area. So for that, I'm just going to mix some lemon yellow and a little bit of permanent rose, just to make a sort of an earthy colour. Now if that, to me, if yours looks a bit bright and you want to brown it out a bit, all you have to do to that then is add a little bit of blue. Too red at the moment, much too red. So to make it a little bit more, but still much too much. Just going to check that. That's too orange, much too orange. So to change that, I could just get a little bit of not cerulean blue, a little bit of Windsor blue, just a little bit, and pop it in like that, and that will start to neutralise it a bit and make it slightly more brown in colour. And I'm going to go with that because the sand is quite yellow in this picture, and I'm just going to paint that in very loosely. We can always come back over it again later. Nice confident brushwork you want to have. Go over the foreground and the front. Go all over that. Because we're going to put our grasses in the foreground in a minute. There we go. Just wait for that bit to dry and then we'll do the next stage. Okay then, now that's nice and dry, I'm going to come in here and I want to start building up some layers on the sea, and I want to try and create that sparkle you see when the sun comes out and you get that lovely sort of shimmering on the water. We're going to try. So I want to build up from light to dark, so I'm just going to, I really want to bear in mind, I want to keep that. It's going to be a bit difficult there because of the, but I'm using the tooth of the paper, not an awful lot of water on my brush. I'm using the paint quite thinly at this time, but no, I just want to bring that down now, just down, and that's our first layer of sparkle. And as we build it up, I want to soften that line there because I went over the sand a little bit, a bit clumsy. That'll be okay, just lift it out with a thirsty brush. Okay, so we'll just leave that bit for a minute and then we'll come back. And we just want to put a little bit of water, a little bit of colour on this piece of the estuary coming up. Again, create a little bit of sparkle on this little stream. That's coming up, coming down the sand. And now just to make this sand a bit more interesting, I'm going to just put a few more layers on it. Just and a little bit down here. And again, this is just adding a little bit more blue to the mix, just to create a cooler thin wash over the sand, just to build up some interest really. Right, now that's drying, we can actually get a bit more blue together. Add a little bit of red to it, make it a bit more purpley colour. And we can start building up. Again, we want to really get the spark on the water, so we're just skimming the brush over the surface. A bit more, too much water on there. Just the sea in the background. I'll zoom in a minute and you can see it a bit closer. So we're, you know, I love those sort of views when you go to the seaside. You see that sort of the sun sort of shimmering on the water. It's just beautiful. But it can be, you know, can be quite tricky to create. You've got to really be careful you don't overdo the, you know, because I think what tends to happen, you tend to obliterate the sea too much as you paint, and then you lose the sparkle. But that's given us some idea of what's happening with it. There's a little bit of sparkle as we go down the estuary. Just there. That's good. I'm going to put some rocks in here in a minute. There's going to be a few, just want a bit more water there. There we go. Now we can start thinking about these foreground grasses. We can get some of those in quickly, and for that I need a nice green colour. So I've got a little bit of the Windsor blue, a little bit of red, and a little bit of cad yellow to get a green going. So in that mix now I've got various greens. I've got a darker green where I've added more blue, and I've got a lighter green back there. I might even get a bit more yellow in there, have even a lighter green again. So I've got three greens going on in that one mix. And I just want to make sure that I get some nice broken edges on there and get the grasses in. They're blown all over the place. So I'm just using the side of the brush and sort of sweeping the brush over the page and letting the tooth of the paper do lots of the work. There's a few lighter greens going in there now. So you're not trying to paint every little bit of grass. You're just randomly letting the brush scoot across the paper. And when you're out sketching, these are the sort of techniques that are really useful and will really bring you. Well, there's nothing on that side. I might put some figures there to draw the eye over, just very small figures in a minute. We'll see. Bit more darker, bit more blue. There we go, mix that up. Just a bit more yellow, don't want it too bluey, and just do some random things. And you know, if you wanted to, you could scratch out into that. We'll have a go at that in a minute perhaps. You could scratch, find something to scratch with. You could scratch some texture into that, just to highlight a couple. And this arch paper is really good for this. It's a really strong paper and you get some nice effects. So not too much, don't ever overdo that, but just gives you a suggestion. On this side we need to put a little bit more wash in the sand. So again, a little bit more blue in that mix. A bit more red. There we go, so we've greyed it out a little bit, neutralised it a bit more. And we can just put that in there at the end. Just the beach. Just to get those layers you get in sand. It's not just all flat one colour. It's lots of different colours. Now I want to mix some colour for some rocks. I want to mix quite a dark, deep browny colour. So I'm going to start with the blue and the yellow. Now if I add some red to that, I start getting quite a dark browny colour. Needs more blue. There's more red and more blue. Bit more yellow. And you've got quite a nice dark there, neutral dark, to put in these little rocks with. Move that over. Oh, you can see that fine. It's me that can't. Okay, so there's a little group of rocks on the end here that just want to be just suggested in. Nothing too much. That's just a bit wet under there, so it's just running into it, which is absolutely fine. And there's some rocks out here. I'm just using the tip of the brush to sketch those in, like that. I'll tell you what we do need, a bit more of that bluey colour, and we'll just no, I'm going to leave it actually. I was tempted to put some detail into the island in the background, the St Michael's Mount, but I think I'll just leave that for the time being. But what we do need to do is a little bit more of the blue colour under the mount, just a bit more sparkle, because there's too much. It wouldn't be that light under there. There's a bit of a reflection going on of the mounts. Try my brush a bit. Get a bit more sparkle going on there. Across here. There we go. So I think that's caught the sparkle quite well in the water. We just need this bit to dry a bit, and then we can just maybe put a couple of figures standing there at the bottom. Okay, then we're just going to put a couple of figures in just to give it a bit of scale. They're going to be small, and just here as if they're just looking out to sea, having walked down. So I'm just thinking about the size of them. It'll be quite small, really. And might be somebody else next to them. Just there like that. And we can have a little bit of a reflection. Hope you can see that okay. I'll zoom in a minute and show you. It's a little bit of reflection, just to indicate where they are. But that's just to give it, helps to give it a little bit of interest by doing that. Now let me zoom in. Oh, wrong way. There we go. There we go. Just zoomed in a little bit. Gives you some idea of what we've done. So it's a very, very vague silhouette of the island. The sky was loosely painted just to create the textures of the clouds, all wet into wet, and a bit of dry brush on the edges. Simple foreground. Just a really, really simple sort of sketch for your sketchbook. Nothing, nothing too difficult. So there we go, there's the painting. I hope you really enjoyed having a little go at that. It's just a very simple sketchbook type of painting, but it shows you how quickly you can put together a little seascape without worrying too much about detail and stuff like that. It's just a lot of brush work, big brushes, a very simple palette of colours as we discussed, silhouetting the island in the background and the foreground and stuff like that, and putting a couple of people in just to give it scale. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out my course at Udemy. The link is below the video. Also come on to Pure Watercolour, completely free to join, and lots of great artists there that will sort of share tips with you and lots of information. If you're starting out as a watercolour, it's a great place to come and learn. We do challenges and all sorts of things there. So come along, and hope to see you there in the future. There'll be more videos coming soon, so that's it for now. Bye bye.